my name is Ryan Lane, and welcome to my review channel. So, for today's movie, I will be reviewing Haunted Mansion, directed by Justin Simien and starring Lakeith Stanfield, Tiffany Haddish, Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, and Rosario Dawson. Anyway, the story follows Ben, played by Lakeith Stanfield. He is a washed-up astrophysicist who drunkenly leads tourists at New Orleans through tour guides of the city. One day, he's approached by Father Kent with the prospect of easy cash. The catch? He has to go and help out a family who has recently acquired a haunted mansion. Hey, that's the name of the movie. If only the film were as fun as that, little joke of mine there. But anyway, I'm off track here. So, Ben, goes out to the mansion, one thing leads to another, and soon he finds himself roped into solving the mystery of said mansion, alongside that of Father Kent, Gabby, played by Rosario Dawson, her son Travis, played by Chris Dillon, and a mediocre medium played by Tiffany Haddish, and a quirky college professor played by Danny DeVito. So the performances are overall surprisingly weak, with many of the actors resting on their on-screen personas to do most of the heavy lifting for the characters. Actors like Owen Wilson and Tiffany Haddish, they're essentially just playing themselves at this point in this movie. Their performances, tonally speaking, aren't that much different from other performances they've given. The only difference is the costumes. Owen Wilson's dressed like a priest, and Tiffany Haddish is dressed like a medium. A rather quirky medium, but I guess, all mediums are kind of quirky. That point notwithstanding, the actors just, many of them aren't, stretching their acting muscles. And actors that do try to stretch their muscles, their performances are hidden under layers of CGI goop. Like Jamie Lee Curtis, she's rendered virtually unrecognizable as Madame Leota, another psychic medium who is trapped inside a glass ball a la Jennifer Tilly from the original adaptation of the ride. And then there's Jared Leto as Hatbox, the villain of the film, who gives a competent, albeit uninspired performance as the villain. Again, he's not my favorite character, but I'll give Jared Leto this. At least he's actually trying to give a performance that's different from other performances he's given. I wouldn't have even known it was him in the role if I hadn't seen the credits. So, points there, I guess? I will say this. The only performance that I did enjoy was Lakeith Stanfield's performance. He's the only achieves the not so easy task of getting the audience to root for this otherwise unlikable two-dimensional character. So that's good there. Plus, he does manage to generate what little pathos exists in this film and kind of makes you feel bad for a situation, but not as much as you should. Again, due to the film's handling of the exposition, and I'll get to that in literally just a moment. So the writing for this film is lazy and cliched. Much of the dialogue is just boring exposition about the mansion, and the characters are two-dimensional. Worse yet, these characters all have predictable character arcs that you can see coming from a mile away. Like from the very moment you see the Ben character in a bar, you have a pretty darn good idea of where he's going to end up by the end of the film. Same goes for other characters like Travis, the aggressively two-dimensional nerd character who doesn't have many friends and dresses like, he's, a nerd from like the 20th century practically at that. He seems like he belongs in a different movie at times in terms of costume at the very least. And then there's the pacing. The pacing drags on way too long on both a micro level and a macro level. Like there'll be moments where it's like, oh, shit's getting real, but then the film just goes on a weird tangent. Like for example, at point, it's like it's getting near the climax and some characters have been booted out of the mansion. It's like, okay, things are getting real. We gotta do things. It is ride or die. But then the characters are like, oh yeah, we gotta go on the side quest to get some MacGuffin to defeat the villain. And I don't know, just the film lacks momentum. It never builds. Plus, and what is arguably the worst sin of all for this comedy, it's not funny. Or rather, at the very least, it's not as funny as it should be. The gags just aren't funny to begin with, and they're rendered painful thanks to the slow pacing of a given scene. Like, you can tell the actors are just desperately trying to make this material funny during any scene, but it's just not working. There are a few gags that do work. Like, for example, there's one funny gag involving calling the police, which did get a pretty solid hearty chuckle out of me. But lines like those are few and far between. So, visually speaking, the film is surprisingly dull. Like, the set design for the titular mansion is surprisingly bare and lacks the gothic flavor of the original 2003 adaptation of the ride. And I know comparing this film to the 2003 adaptation is sacrilege given the film's reception over the years, but still, for better or worse, the film at least looked like a haunted mansion. The 2023 film's mansion, I don't know, just looks like a set, and a not very interesting one at that. There are a few visually creative moments, but you have to suffer through a whole bunch of other non-visually creative moments to get to them. And the CGI ghosts aren't very funny or very scary. Like, again, the ghosts are just sort of set design. You never get a sense that any of them are characters. Even the ones that you do interact with and are important, like Gabriel, I forget his name, but he's an important character, the guy who originally owned the mansion, and you'd think he'd have a little bit more personality based off of how the characters talk about him, but no, I don't know, he's just window dressing for the set. And then there's the climax itself. It feels like studio executives directed this sequence in a desperate attempt to recreate the magic of an Avengers set piece, complete with a CGI army and everything. The director tries to use dolly zooms and Dutch tilts to enliven these moments, but it feels like less of an attempt to further the director's vision and more like an attempt to polish a cinematic turd of a movie. And on a rather unusual note, many of the actors at points in this movie feel like they were CGI'd into the film, like as if they were filmed against a green screen and then digitally inserted into the sets. Because, I don't know, the way they're photographed, they have a weird aura around them. Or maybe it's just because the film uses a lot of shallow focus whenever it photographs them. I don't know. It just felt off the way, they contrasted with the set design. So cliched and uninspired, Haunted Mansion strands its overqualified cast in yet another pointless retread of a Disney IP. And so with that in mind, I will be giving Haunted Mansion 1.5 out of 5 stars. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. If you like this review and would like to see more like it, be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. And for today's comment section prompt of the day, what is your favorite film based on a ride and why?